Welcome to EC2 TV. As you know, the EC2 works for those students who have issues with learning and behavior. It takes special planning and coordination to help these children. And it's a legal requirement that what we call development plans are made for all students who need a special program. Teachers and care coordinators or guidance officers have to have training to give them the skills and knowledge to make and work with these plans. To help the schools with this new development, we invited back Erik Adema, an education coach from Holland. He helped all the schools to set up the framework for working with developmental plans.
Every student on any school, wherever, is developing, but there are students also in SEBA that have special educational needs, and we also want them to develop in a way that they can reach some goals and that they are happy and they can have a safe and a right place in the mainstream and in their home group at school. And the last year we were focusing on the differentiation, the different levels in the group. But in every classroom, in every group, there are some students, sometimes two, sometimes three, sometimes none of them, no students, that have special educational needs. And we're not only talking about educational needs concerning to learning, it can also be something to do with behavioral or their social, emotional development, and even sometimes with language, because there are some students that are coming from other countries and they don't speak. And that's not a kind of problem that has to do something with learning, but don't understand the language. And because of their educational needs, special educational needs, they can't follow parts of the program, of whole the program, or they doesn't fit in the approach, in the regular approach in the class. So we have to find out, we have to make a plan how to deal with that educational needs, and that's why we call it a developmental plan.
At Sacred Heart School, developmental plans are a tool used to ensure that students receive the best education we can give them. As we are the first educators to deal with students, we can detect any problems or difficulties students are having in their class or academic early on. This is the reason we monitor and test students on a regular basis. We have to remember, a small change or a little help to begin with is much more effective than solving a big problem later on.
So it is important to deal with issues as soon as the teacher notices it. EC2 offers support to all the schools starting from daycare. However, the developmental plan that Erik will tell us about applies to the students as of grade 3 primary school. The plan may continue during the complete school career of a student up to SKJ.
Well, the situation on SEBA is a unique situation. Okay, there are two schools and three if you consider SKJ also as a school, and that's the regular school. There is no special education. There are no streams for special education. So you could say that's an interesting point of view, because that means that when there are children with special needs, you have to have them on your own school. That's the first challenge, because they can't leave the island. And so, but then the question comes, well, I'm not able to work with those students, so let them go out to the class and let the RT'er, a remedial teacher or a special ed teacher, work with that student. I think that social, emotional development for a child is very, very important, and then you do that in a group. You need some safety and you need some mates in your group, and when you are taken constantly out of the classroom, you are dropped in a very specific position, and you are more like, I don't know, use the word outcast, and all your colleagues, all your classroom mates know you're special. Because everybody on the island knows about each other, so why don't have it in an open discussion? Okay, children are different, and we try to help the children as much as possible in our own class.
I think we are very fortunate in our school that we have a kind of school community setting here, where we have 3 streams where children are eventually going to, and these 3 streams are based on their individual needs and individual levels. And as principal, I'm very proud that we have 3 levels where children can actually achieve their own goals and their own opportunities and their own ability. That's all written in a school development plan and also in an individual development plan, which we receive from the Sacred Heart School when they enter. And with that plan we evaluate if necessary, we reset goals, and we continue with the development of these students as much as individual as possible.
Supposed to do that, and you start a conversation. We're not training the teachers, because I think it's the IGO and it's the care coordinator or the department leader or the director. They're responsible for training and facilitating their own teachers. And we were talking about ways to do that, and we give some examples, and we were making procedures, and we also have figured out what's really important, and what we constantly try to do is what is already existing at the schools, because there are a lot of things going on at the Sacred Hearts or the Comprehensive School. There are a lot of things are going very well. How can we make a match what there is and what's missing? So we designed formats, and we fill them at the same time. When we made a design, and a half hour late we fill them in, not with theoretical students but with real life students, so the home group teacher could use what's in it right away. And they were also apparent at that moment when we're talking at the pro department. So we're not this week we didn't train the teachers. No, you could say we were coaching. I was coaching the IGOs, I was coaching the care coordinators, and I sometimes was challenging the directors and the leaders to manage that. The vowels. So our goal would be, not only. The challenge is together with the teacher. Okay, how do I organize that? And that's an interesting question, because a lot of teachers are already differentiating more or less in 1 or 2 and sometimes even in 3 different levels, and then there comes more like a 4th level, and that's concerning on that student. And how do I do that? And then we ask ourselves the question: okay, if we know what the goals are, what resources do we have? Okay, the main important resource is I am a teacher. What can I do in my classroom organization? But perhaps there is a remedial teacher, or I can use the guidance from the internal guidance officer or the care coordinator, or perhaps it's possible to have a counselor from the EC2 or an ambulatory guidance also. And together with that, we make, and that's an important part of the developmental plan, we make a kind of a program. And we try as much as possible to keep the student in his classroom situation, because of the social-emotional development is also very important, and to pick out the student every time again in another situation doesn't help the student. But sometimes it's required, because you could imagine when you need to have a kind of pre-teaching, we call it, and you read a text in a quiet situation, so the student knows what's in the text, and then you start reading comprehension. Then the student has a little kind of advance. He knows what to do, and he is be proud to join the whole group. So that are important parts of the plan. So we have first have the history, then we go what are the goals for the next period, and how do we organize that, and we also decide at what moment, and especially how do we follow, monitor, and evaluate the development of the student. And that's not only by testing, but it could also be have conversation with the student. You could imagine that, especially at the highest grades of the primary school, and when we're talking at the pro department and other departments, we try to involve the student as much as possible. What do you want to learn? How do you want to learn? With whom are you learning? So also in the evaluation moments, the reflection moments, the student is involved. It's all based on the same.
All of our SKA students enter the program on a voluntary basis. We use the resources of EC2 to determine what their entrance levels are. So with this information, we basically develop individual development plans for each student. This includes where their entrance levels are and what their ultimate goals are, whether it be entering directly into the labor market, working at the social workplace, or continuing education at MBO 1 or MBO 2. So the individual development plans basically help us to monitor the progress of each student in stages toward their final goal.
There are already been some arrangement and making some short action plans by the schools themselves. Well, for example, at the Sacred Heart School, they filled in one developmental plan, and it was done by the remedial teacher with assistance of the EC2. They planned to do it for the next time, that the teacher, the teachers are going to do the same with a guidance from the IGO and the RTR. And on the pro department it was the same. The home group teacher filled in one, but she has to fill in even more. And the other next steps that the IGOs and the care coordinators and the management is thinking how to support the teachers in executing the plans. And we talked that over, and they are making action plans for the next few months in this school year and also for the whole year coming up. So that's what should be, and I think that will be the next step. So we collected a lot of information.
So now the schools are moving forward. During the recent visit of the inspectors of education, we could show them that we're on the right track. If you have any questions on this topic, please drop by at the EC2 or contact the care coordinator or guidance officer of the school. Thank you for watching.